FOMO. Wells only and his guests are not responsible for any losses you may accrue from having weak hands. Where the hate is at? Yeah, bitches still ain't showed up. And now, right, we got Hex. Flawless uptime. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. It's lullaby music, really, right? It's hard to believe that something like this exists. I get it, but you just gotta come to terms with reality. It just exists. There's nothing we can do about it. Buy a steak and chill, baby. This is Wales Only. Glad you guys can make it out. I'm making some claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all's deep. Everybody. My God. Hex Asians, bro. Everybody. Australians, man. Everybody gets me. Yo, when is it told you? Dollar told you. Everybody done told you. It's crazy. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Back for round two, basically. I kind of wanted to talk about some things yesterday, but in the interest of time and keeping the stream close to an hour, I basically just didn't talk about it. So I figured today would be a good day to talk about market structure, market operators, and how they could impact crypto markets, right? Because that's ultimately what's next. And what I mean by market structure and market operators, I mean entities that's what they do. So we're talking about Wall Street, banks, etc., brokerages, buy side, sell side, all that funky stuff. So that's what I have in mind for today. Because it's really important. Because of course, Hex is not going to be the only thing that people can invest in, right? It's the best thing because that's what it is right now. But we can presume that maybe sometime in the future, there might be something different that's worth investing in that's as good as Hex, right? That means all those bullet points that we constantly talk about: quality, product market fit, yada yada. So how do we ensure that we understand the position, right? Because that was kind of the hardest thing for me at the beginning of my, I guess, 13-year crypto journey at this point, is trying to understand where crypto fit. Because I just wasn't astute enough at the time to understand that it was the main thing, right? And that's really what talking about this is really about. It's just to kind of give you some type of gaze to understand that there is a whole industry behind what you see on YouTube, right? And that's very important you understand that, because people come to YouTube to try to find people that are providing actionable information. I've been like very observant of the videos and the view counts that they get lately on YouTube. And what I've noticed is a lot of the videos that get millions of views, six-figure views. Let's go with the millions of views first. Millions of views videos, they're typically in obscure topics, like hydraulic pressing, bushcraft living, uh, just obscure things that very few individuals are even going to want to do. Never mind be interested in doing it. Just have just just want to do it, because again, these people are doing this thing one time, maybe once a month, once a quarter, who knows? And these videos are getting millions of views. So they living off these checks that they're getting from YouTube. You understand? And you can look up these channels on socialblade.com to confirm what's being told. So it's not like you even got to guess. The data's out there. So there's a way to strategize around all this internet shit. You just got to be smart enough to understand what the game is. And the game is eyeballs, right? And this is why it's so hard to get the eyeballs on Hex, because when you look at what it is that gets eyeballs, I mean, just looking at the legacy side stuff, right? The legacy side stuff, the stuff that gets, give me a second, the stuff that gets millions of views market wise is the mainstream stuff. Not even the people you would consider good on YouTube. Those motherfuckers that are considered supposedly good, but they're not, they might get six figures worth of views. The Patrick McDavids and whatnot, they're not talking about markets. They're talking about entrepreneurship and shit like that. They don't count. I'm talking about strictly market related shit. So, there's really nobody out there promoting solid financial activities in general, right? You look at the Susie Ormans and whatnot. I mean, come on. What what valid advice is she really giving? I used to watch that show just to try to like wrap my head around what it is I'm supposed to like know in terms of finance and stuff, right? Because we all start at the bottom trying to learn an entire field to try to find where we fit. And just listening to people like them talk and just doing the math, right? And going through the experiences myself, trying to understand personal finance and what's a good habit to have and not a good habit to have, or a good way to live, and blah 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 blah. It's obvious that certain things are going to be out of your control, right? Like, that's a giveaway. However, it's about understanding that because something got out of your control doesn't mean that it's the end, right? And this is one thing that I think um we just never learn as individuals, right? Because unless somebody's teaching you this stuff about money, you just have no concept of it. It's foreign to you. It's just another bill that you have to pay. You don't realize that you can have a conversation with the counterparty and come to terms where you don't have to feel like you owe the world your fucking, skin and blood and all that. Because for people that owe money, it's a psychological drainer, and that converts itself into stressors and all these other negative attributes that take the toll on the human mind, body, and soul. So, you know, I don't know, man. It's this whole topic of money is very near and dear to my heart because of how I went about getting thrown into it, I guess is one way of putting it. Because again, my original intention in life was not to be a finance person. I had no interest in none of this stuff. So the interest came from living this shit in real life and realizing that, yo, I gotta know this stuff. I can't pretend like it doesn't matter, right? And then the realization ultimately came that just applies to all subject matter. It don't matter what it is. You gotta know everything. Like, your notion of liking and not liking is irrelevant. If you intend to live and live successfully, you better be educated in more than one arena, right? I mean, the people that are successful are knowledgeable in more than one arena. They're not just good in, flipping pancakes or whatever. They're good at flipping pancakes and scrambling eggs. Just to give an example, right? Because people don't just want pancakes. They want pancake and eggs. And of course, they're probably going to want some bacon and sausage on the side too, right? So you got to get down with that as well. See? So you got to understand that place and time, right? And once we come to the realization that we're not getting the tools and the tools and resources that we need from school, because that's the thing I had to come to terms with. Because even though I didn't give a rat's ass, I know, or I say I knew at the time that I didn't have the knowledge that I needed, right, to be able to do the things I needed to do to find the success that I was maybe trying to find. I didn't know. I was just trying to survive at that point. Just trying to learn how to not live from paycheck to paycheck, right? Because for a lot of us, it's a process. And that's the thing. That process is not always obvious if nobody's walking you through it. And a lot of us don't have somebody to walk us through some of these things. Some of these things I learned the hard way because the parents presume one thing is happening when it's not. The schools are lying, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. Nobody's really caring about anything. And the kids are just left out there high and dry. And the same thing happened to the parents, mind you. So it's just a societal issue, right? Because even though the parents don't intend to leave the kids high and dry, it just happens that way. Plain and simple. This is just how it goes. So the question becomes then how do you change that cycle? Right? And the reality is that in the current societal structure that we have, it's really not possible. Right? I mean, these are the things we got to come to terms with. And these are the types of things that I point out all the time. Right? It's like this whole notion of fuck, there's so many. uh I don't know. Everybody getting a trophy, right? Everybody can't get a trophy, clearly. And that's become evident now, right? All the things that all the people have been saying for a while is now becoming obvious. But now we have a generation full of useless adults, right? That think that they're entitled to everything and blah, blah, blah. And, the reason I mentioned that, even though the stream isn't about all of this stuff, still kind of doing the intro, is that all of this stuff underpins what we then deem society, right? And how it functions, how it structures, how we exchange value. See, so it's all related. No matter what you want to think about life, everything is interconnected. Everything is a web. You cannot have a conversation about money without having a conversation about psychology. Very simply put. Because the decisions you make, whether good or bad, are primarily predicated on the psychological behaviors, right? Because when it comes to money, who's there to stop you from doing A, B, C, or D? Nobody. You either have the funds to do whatever it is or you don't, right? So if you don't have the funds and you just clearly can't do it, but if you do, then you can press any button you want and burn your money to the ground, right? And this is what a lot of us end up doing because we're not understanding that we're not being strategic, we're not following a plan, blah, 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 blah. We don't have a good relationship with money, all these little things that we thought didn't matter, don't pay attention to, whatever the case is. Um, it's a hard knock life out there. And the problem is not singular. And this is the common thread that we're taught, that it's a singular issue, that you are the problem. And in part, sure, of course, it's my fault. I didn't know how to manage my money. I didn't know what to do because I was relying on those intermediaries that were claiming they were going to educate me and blah, 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 right? I bought into certain parts of the narrative. So that's my fault because I didn't buy into all of them, clearly, right? I clearly did not. So it's a function of me choosing when and when not to play myself. And when it comes to money, a lot of us choose to play ourselves consistently, right? This is why we're here in crypto trying to find that escape, because we haven't been able to find it elsewhere in some instances. Maybe some of us have, and we're just here trying to learn something new. That's cool. Good for you. So this doesn't really apply to you. But for those of you that this does apply to, listen up, because the psychological impact of the things you do surrounding money, that's the why. And sometimes it's in your subconscious. You can't even identify it. Why do you live paycheck to paycheck? Is it really your job, or is it your spending habits? Right? I mean, these are the questions we got to ask ourselves, because that's what matters. You know, sometimes you think one thing is true and the complete opposite is, in fact, right? And this is a function of you putting this enormous pressure on yourself that you don't even really need, because at the end of the day, just a little bit of patience, a little bit of diligence goes a long way once you understand the problem. But sometimes you're too busy not even trying to slow down and understand the problem, right? So all of this is related to your learning about markets, how they operate, the decisions people make, the decisions these entities make, right? Even though it sounds so distant and remote, I mean, it's so closely related, because the decisions you make are going to be yours to make. Nobody's going to be there on the live stream telling you what button to click when you're doing buy or sell when you're doing it, right? Regardless of whatever coin it is, it's just not going to happen. So, as time passes, headlines are going to be pushed to your face, information is going to be pushed out, and it's not always going to come from people like me. It's going to come from people that have an agenda, have an ulterior motive, want you to think one thing versus another, whatever the question is. And that's important for you, the viewer, to understand, because that is how the world actually works. It revolves around money. I could be here all day peppering people to give me donations if I felt like it, and getting them, because that's how I see other streams working. It's very rare that I see a big time streamer not getting a super chat to answer a question. I just answer them shits in here. I don't get no super chat for that. In fact, I tell people not to give me a super chat, because you're giving the fucking enemy ammo. Why the hell would I want that? Maybe when Post Chain go live, I'll have a donation address. Maybe. Whatever. Point is, you got to understand what you are doing, right? Even when it comes to money. I'm willing to sacrifice getting a few extra dollars to not let YouTube get a few extra cents. I don't care. I still got to bust my ass. It's not going to change my life, YouTube money. I'm not making the type of videos that are going to get 600,000 views. I'm not cooking. You know what I'm saying? I'm not living in the wilderness in a tent, cooking on some fucking stove pot on some coals and shit. I'm not doing nothing like that. So that's not going to get 600,000 views, a million views, whatever have you. So these are the things that are important to understand, right? Because your decision making process is a function of who you are, what you've been through, how it impacted you, and your reaction to it. Why do so many people fail at trading? It's because they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. It's not because they're bad traders. They don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know what trading is, in fact. They think that they're just supposed to sit there and click all the time. That's not trading. That's just you clicking all the time. Very important to understand, because this is why you have people running around saying trading is death, and it's not. Everybody's a trader. Period. I don't give a fuck who you are. Even Richard Hart's a fucking trader. Everybody fucking trades something for something. The fuck you think you doing when you wake up every day? I just don't understand the logic in people. Where's your thought process? Everybody trades something for something. Nobody's doing nothing for nothing. Period. Just because you don't want to use the word trading, don't mean it's not a trade. An exchange is an exchange. A swap is a trade. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to tell people, but that's just simply put. Even if you're holding it for 20, 30, 40 years, at some point in time, you're swapping, exchanging, trading that thing. You're going to get something for it. And that's a trade, that's an exchange, that's a swap, that's whatever you want to call it. It literally doesn't matter. And that is the important thing to understand. It doesn't matter. Right? Let me put you up on game because this is what these streams are for. The whole notion of your understanding of markets is predicated on what other people want you to think. This is why I typically stand apart. I'm not telling you the narrative. I'm telling you the contra narrative. The contra narrative is make your own decisions. The contra narrative is watch the psychological reaction of the market. I mean, you can pinpoint the top and bottom to every market cycle by watching people and their reaction. All cycles, all types of cycles. You pick one and watch it, and you will become profitable from it just by watching individuals. And I mean, you got to be doing this deliberately, of course, because it's not easy to do. Because you're going to want to watch charts, you're going to want to be human, basically, right? But at the end of the day, as an individual that's from the outside looking in, you're not on Wall Street. You're not on a hedge fund desk. You're not at a bank, right? So you're not being trained on how these people think, how they operate. You don't see this day to day. And that's important for you, the individual, sitting at home, not working in this business, to understand, because now the stakes have completely changed. Because now you have a slew of venture capital firms trying to find a way to squeeze a nut out of this thing here called cryptocurrency. Right? And there's even a tweet showing the list of the top 25. And I'm going to pull that up so we can go through it. Because they're the usual suspects. Right? And this is again, this is where it starts. It starts with these VC firms. Now, why does it start with them? It starts with them because they're the ones that typically stand up the Facebooks, the Amazons, whatever have you. They're the ones that create the problems, in short. PayPal's, eBay, all these things that were once beneficial and have now become intrusive. They were always meant to be intrusive. They were never meant to be beneficial for you. And this is important to understand. How else do we get to where we're at? It's not a coincidence. You think these people just said, oh, yeah, sure. We don't want to die, so do whatever you want. No, they had to be complicit the entire time. I mean, it's just too many of them. It can't be that every single individual that is professed as being intelligent, a genius, the best ever at whatever they do, blah, 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 they're all commies. How is it they're all commies? All of them. They're all commie lefties. I mean, you think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's by design. All these people are intertwined. And this is why things function how they do. And this is important for you to understand as an individual, because this is how you have to come to the realization that you have to stop following the herd and learn how to make your own analysis, conduct your own analysis, do your own decision making, right? How are you ensuring that what you're thinking or acting on makes sense? Because your objective is to make money. It's not to fail. But more times than not, we end up failing. I mean, how many times have you bought a stock and sold it? But if you would have just held it, you wouldn't you would never ever experience any downside. I mean, there's a ton of stocks out there that are like that, right? And this is important to understand, because at the end of the day, you're still alive. You still have life to live, right? I mean, you're not dead yet. You're not gonna die anytime soon, hopefully, right? So you got a plan to live for the long term so that you can find some success. Because I could tell you from very good experience that living fast don't lead to nothing positive. It just doesn't. So you gotta let that go, because that's what a lot of us people do when we come to markets. We try to think that we can come over here and make this, you know, $10 flip every time we click a button, or $100 or $1,000 every time we click a button, and that's just not the case. You need to be strategic. You need to be planning about it. You need to have a plan behind your actions, even when it's on behind the screen. In fact, in fact, in fact, you need to be more diligent behind the screen, because there's no physical restrictions, right? There's no physical friction. There's nothing there to stop you, block you from doing whatever you're doing. And this is why we, the individual, must be diligent in our action. I mean, it's supremely important. It's not about limiting ourselves. It's about ensuring we're taking calculated risks that make sense. This is why a lot of people get lost in the sauce when it comes to day trading, because they think they got to trade every day. False. It's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be trading when there's a reason to trade. And that's it. And that's not going to be every day. Because guess what? Markets don't move up and down every day. They just don't. So those are things you got to understand if you're going to be playing this game. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter whether you're playing it long or short term. You just have to understand how markets evolve. This is why I always point people to my first few videos, because that's it. That is the holy grail. Your understanding of that and your plan being in line with that reality is what's going to lead you to success in the markets. Not finding that new crypto and whatever else it is you might think. Like, that's just not what it is. Hate to say it, but that's what's true. Plainly put. Um, it is what it is. And a lot of people hate that, but you know, what are you gonna do? You can't change reality. You see, and this is what's important to understand. Because if you could, well, I definitely would not be streaming trying to wake people up behind what's going on and why it's going on and all these things. You would just see it. It would be obvious to you just as it is to me. But that's just not the way it works. I've been fighting this battle for over 20 years at this point. It's never ending. We just got to keep finding ways to reinvent ourselves so that the communication, the information does reach the intended parties. And that's, as many people that are willing and open-minded to listen, right? Because this is not for everybody. Some people will get aggressive towards the truth because they don't want their worldview, which is, given to them, to be disheveled by any facts or, figures. I mean, for the longest time, you have politicians all over the world espousing the new normal, that phrase, because they wanted you to think something had changed. But in reality, the only thing that's happened is that things have gotten worse, right? They haven't gotten better, only worse, right? So then the question is, why? Why is that? Well, it's because we let it happen, unfortunately. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that are letting this stuff happen. It's not anybody else. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's the facts. You don't gotta like it. That sure as hell is the truth. And good luck to you. Everybody's too busy trying to live a life that they haven't earned, instead of fixing what problems have been left for us to fucking deal with. because our parents didn't deal with them and neither did their parents. And these are the facts. And don't think I haven't bitched at my mom and let her ass know how I feel about it, because I sure as hell have. Regardless of the fact that, of course, she couldn't do it by herself. But god damn it, what the fuck is wrong with you people? All of you motherfuckers. Anybody that's older than me, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, we're living at a point in time where it's obvious who's in charge. And it's always been. But people have opted for it to not be obvious because it suited them. Man, that shit has gone out the window, right? Because now it's crunch time. And for real. Because now comes a point in time where you need to understand exactly what the hell is going on. Because if not, you're going to get left behind. And not in a good way. Think about it like this. Do you want to be Steve Jobs, or do you want to be, what's the other guy's name? Steve Wozniak, right? I know who I'm going to be. Can't say the same for many out there. Because a lot of people like to get behind this type of shit. And I'm going to tell you guys what. I know nobody really follows Blockworks for a fact. I don't hear anybody talking about it. I don't see anybody talking, referencing these people, nothing. So let me school y'all on who Blockworks is. These are the people that are literally standing up the fake crypto industry in your face while you're over here sucking on furu nuts. So, as always, people are looking left when they should be looking right. Never fails. And it's not failing in this instance again. If you go to their Twitter, you'll see they had a whole year's worth of symposiums and none of you were even aware. All of 2022, all they talked about was how the industry was going to change. So if you're not familiar with Blockworks, at Blockworks underscore, you should probably get familiar. Because they're the ones that are determining what's happening in crypto, not you, not the actual crypto user, the people behind this entity. So let's talk about the losers. The top 25 VC funds have collectively raised 47 billion, but they have yet to fully deploy it into crypto startups. I wonder why. Now, do you guys understand what a VC is outright? And in most cases, the average person does not. So the VC firms are the companies that give brand new companies money essentially to operate, right? To invest in themselves to generate or create whatever business they're trying to create, right? Because a lot of times when people have a good business idea, they don't have any capital, right? So they got to borrow it from somewhere. And that somewhere is typically VCs. Excuse me for a second. Okay. And these companies invest with the expectation of profit from the work of others, right? I mean, that should be obvious. Um, so they're entitled to, they're entitled to a lot. They're entitled to ownership rights. They're entitled to vesting, all types of shit. Whatever terms they work out with the owners, they're entitled to it. On top of that, they pretty much determine what happens. Because guess what? They control the purse strings. Not you, right? Not the people building, supposedly, right? The people behind the curtain. It's always the ones you don't see. Always. And this is important to understand. Because it's just like when you call a company and you need help, right? You need some customer service. Um, if you get a person that sucks, then you're not getting any customer service. Right? Pretty simple. So, what do you think is going to come from a bunch of companies that think that they can create the next iteration of money, right? Like, we need to realize that that's what these VCs are trying to say. Here's some coins, here's some money. Go create the next iteration of money. And we're going to own that. Like, I hope you guys realize this is what is going on right here on the screen. Essentially, a whole bunch of new entrants into the central banking race have presented themselves. And I don't think people really realize that, right? This is why it's important to understand what cryptocurrency is, why it exists, why it's here. Because it's not for your opinion to matter. It's not for you to be cute. It's not for you to get views. It's not for none of that. It's for people to find freedom and peace of mind. And so that they can actually live and then be cute and all that other shit. But until we achieve that level of freedom, none of that other shit is actually going to matter. And I think people have a hard time wrapping their head around that reality because they're very, very pressed to ignore reality. This here, these are a whole bunch of new central banks trying to vie to be a central bank. This is what that is. So never mind the fact that that's not even real crypto. It's imperative that you as an individual understand that this is what's currently happening right here because that is how this money would work. You think they're just going to create something like RH and call it a day? You know, oh, I got the glory, I don't need the money. No, don't be stupid. It's literally not how it works. And that long pause is on purpose. So, you know, these entities give capital to these so-called startups that have ownership behind them, mind you. Um, that's A. B. It's not about glory. They're not Richard Hart. They're trying to make money, which is fine. We already know who makes the money when a coin is launched. So that's neither here nor there. The problem is, does it have admin keys? Yes and no. In a lot of instances, the answer is yes. Is it complete? Yes and no. In a lot of instances, the answer is no. So you have something that isn't complete and something with admin keys being pushed forward to you as viable money when if it goes down or whatever, you just got no recourse. You're just SOL. I mean, we see it all the time on Ethereum. We see it all the time on these new fake chains, ghost chains, excuse me. I mean, all we do is see this. I don't understand why we think it's acceptable for our money to not be functional 24/7. I don't get that. I really don't get that. I mean, would you be mad if Visa didn't work 24/7? I mean, I'm guessing no, because that's what basically everybody is saying when it comes to crypto. It's okay, it don't got to work 24/7, and I don't know why that is. But I want to know that if I wake up at fucking 3:52 in the morning, regardless of time zone, my shit is there because it's my shit. I really don't know why that's complicated for people. And that's cool, man. You can keep it complicated for you, but those of us with the knowledge and power to make shit, work properly, we're gonna work against these forces here on this screen to ensure that they have no possibility to succeed in the future. Because this is the battle that we're fighting right now. Whether you like to realize it or not is irrelevant, but that's what's true. The battle that's being fought right now is the people versus the corporations and the government. Now, I don't know if you guys missed the last 3 years, but the corporations run the country through the government. That's why when you went into a store, you had to put on a face diaper. You couldn't get a bag. You couldn't get certain things, this, that, and the third. Hell, certain stores were just closed. Never mind the rest. Right? Now, how is it that this makes sense? I don't know, but it doesn't. Right? And that's why it's on people like us to sit here and call out the nonsense when necessary. And this is one of those times. I mean, this is just something else, right? You got people uh vying for that central bank top spot. That's what's going on here. And it's crucial that we all understand that that's what's going on, because you need to do your due diligence when you're out here looking at these other coins and ensuring that you're not supporting the enemy. Because how are you going to pretend to find freedom when you're out here giving ammunition to the same person that's trying to suppress you? I don't get that. That's not a strategy. And I would advise against that, all the way, top to bottom. I would advise against that. And again, this is just the top 25. This is not all of them, just the top 25. There's thousands of these firms out there. And the thing you got to realize is that size doesn't matter. Luck is what matters here. Luck more than anything. Because there's no telling what's going to actually become sticky, right? There's no telling. We can all presume, but there's really no telling. Because it's a new world. It ain't the 70s no more. It's not going to be some fiat. I think that's ship has sailed. I don't think fiats are done for life as far as I'm concerned. As long as the world is digital, fiats are done. So the only way they can regain the level of control they once had is by reversing time and destroying all the technological advances that we have seen in the past 50 years. It's literally the only way. And given that they benefit just like we do, I don't see them doing that. So I don't know. Anything's possible, right? Maybe they'll create a bifurcated system. That's also unexpected. So not sure what to tell you from that perspective, but you got to understand what's going on, the big picture. And this is funny. I never seen that before. And shout out to all you guys in the chat for tuning in. Don't mean to ignore you guys, but you guys know I just start going in and it's hard for me to stop. But I will pause in a little bit and take some time to engage you guys. But what do you call, this is a joke, what do you call three bankers at the bottom of an ocean, of the ocean? A good start. Yeah, pretty much. And the thing about it is, there's nothing wrong with banking inherently, right? The problem is how it's done. Um, it's done in a duplicitous manner, right? And I think that at the end of the day, we gotta just come to terms with the fact that this notion of what we call society is just failed. It doesn't work. We gotta just do things differently. Just what it has to be. So, you know, tough nuggies, right? Um, cause how many times, I don't really get it, but apparently doing the same thing to the tune of failure is what's acceptable, right? And I don't think that's the case. Um, and I think that if crypto is the last bastion of hope, then those of us with the capacity to understand what's going on should do ourselves a favor and get involved with fixing what's wrong, right? But of course, within our means. For now, we do it by streaming, right? Sharing actionable and factual information, because that's what people need. They don't need anything else. Um, People are trying to find that thing that's going to give them that edge, and that's ultimately what people want. So that's what we try to provide. And you can't really have people ask for more. Because at the end of the day, if people understand that that's what they want, then it's not going to be much of an issue. They're going to do what they got to do and be done with it. But of course, there's going to be those that are just doing what seems cool to them to do at the time. They're just poking around, kicking tires and whatnot. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that because we all do it, right? We got to explore, but you got to be cognizant of other people's time and whatnot as well, right? There's a way of go about doing it, and I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Ultimately, everybody wants to find their success, and that's the point, right? But the objective should be to do it in such a way that you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? Because that why is really what guides a lot of your decision making. I mean, and if that shit ain't right and it ain't tight and it ain't pinned down, I mean, your decision making is going to suffer, and the consequences that you're going to experience are not going to be what you expected. But that's all because you didn't have it lined up in your head what it should be. Trust me, this is again one of the reasons why people fail in markets. They don't have an idea of what they're doing there. They're just there. It's like playing a video game. Why are you playing? Most people play to win. A lot of people don't trade to win. They're just trading to trade. And that's important to understand. Like that plays a problem. That's a problem for people. Um, you got to understand that because you don't want to lose your money. You want to win, but we end up losing because we're not paying attention to what we're doing or why we're doing it. Better yet. So, you know, understand that these VCs are there to tee up the next version of money, right? That's what these VCs are there to do. They try to be the next central bank in a lot of ways. And while it might not come across that way, that's basically how it's going to end up working out. Because once they figure out what they've accomplished, why would they relinquish control? I mean, why would they? Right? Now, presuming, because there's really no telling how this stuff is going to work out, right? But there's no telling if any of these entities that build these coins in the future are going to become public, or if they're going to do ICOs, or if something new is going to be invented, whatever have you. There's no way to tell. What we do know is that these VCs are going to own the majority of the economic power because they're in early, they're in with size. And the thing you got to understand is that there's multiple capital raises that happens in most instances, at least 3 to 5, if not more. Right. So over time, these VCs just add more and more firepower to their chest as time to the war chest as time passes. Right. So yeah, they can have some serious firepower at the end of a company, evolving from a thought to a thing providing a good or service, right? And that's important to understand in this scenario because that's what we're about to see. We're about to see the life cycle of something. We don't know what it is yet. Um, and that's important because it's gonna be on us to slow it down if possible. Right? We can't rest on our laurels here. We can't do it. And that's important to understand because the freedom, the life you want to have, all that is predicated on your understanding of your rights and what others can do to you. That's exactly why everything that happened over the past 3 years happened because people didn't know. You think I didn't have no problems with my job? I didn't have no problems at all. My life continued normal as is. It just changed relative to everybody else's. Now, why is that? Because everybody else changed. They didn't know their rights. Simple. Um, hold on, guys. So yeah, this is just a start, right? And in their mind, they think they're early in the sense that there's they have an entryway to create money too, not realizing there's already thousands of people working on this issue. So they're trying to essentially find ways to crowd out the little guy, which is what always happens. So it's on you, again, the individual, to educate those that don't know anything about crypto in regards to real crypto, not the fake crypto, which is what's going to come through here. I mean, don't forget that this Vitalik Buterin guy is trying to make a blockchain ID for your soul or some shit. Like, you really need to wake up if you're in this space and pretending to be a part of this movement. Don't just talk about it. Because people like me are going to fucking skull drag you and light you on fire. Because we're not here pretending. A lot of people are. I'm not one of them. And I'm going to let your ass know. Because guess what? There's no room for bullshit when it comes to freedom. That's exactly why the world is where it is now. So if you have some type of commercial agenda, that's cool. Just keep it out of my fucking way. Because that's not what I'm here for. Information is the key. And if you don't use it accordingly, it will use you. So what comes after VCs? A couple things comes after VCs. You got the hedge funds, you got the banks that could do, private stuff, the bank elements that could do private stuff. Essentially, any entity that could do private deals, right? Which could basically be anything, and that's what's called the buy side. And then you have certain elements within the sell side, and they typically create what's called the special purpose vehicle. Um, and this is how these CDSs from mortgage back era were created and stuff like that, or even the mortgage backs themselves. They were created with special purpose vehicles. Um, you know, it's just so many layers, man. And if you want to find success in the market, you got to know who the players on the field are, right? This is like a game. You got to know who the players on the field are, what position they're playing, right? What's the objective of their position, right? You got to know all that. Until I realized that, I didn't really start making sense of the market. So that's really one thing you as an individual, if you're trying to get your head around all this, you need to do that. Who are all these market players? What are they doing? Why are they here? What is their objective? Why do these VCs matter? What do these VCs do? In short, these VCs take 500,000, 100,000, whatever number they're playing with, they throw it around to whatever entities they come across, and whichever one hits, whichever one doesn't. That's literally the strategy. That's why they use small amounts of money, low risk, high reward. So what comes after these VCs? You got the hedge funds, you got the credit funds, you got all these funds that could do this private stuff, and they go out of bounds. They change their investment guidelines, whatever have you, to fit the opportunity. They'll raise capital for a brand new fund. The guidelines won't even matter because they got some brand new shit. So they're just giving you new language and you're just signing up and paying. It don't matter, right? Because we all just making money anyway. We don't care. And that's what's happening here. The people that are putting capital to work here, me, i.e., the investors, they don't know what crypto is. The entities that you're looking at on this screen right now, they don't know what crypto is. That's exactly why they're out here trying to run around, give money to companies. I guarantee you, it's very few that are running around trying to give money to individuals or teams to create anything. There's a difference between company and just a group of ragtag individuals. So that's very critical to understand because at the end of the day, there's a huge difference there, right? And you guys saw that video I played for about what Genza said yesterday. So he gets it clearly. Suggest you get there too, fast, because it's going to matter here shortly. I mean, we're talking about just 42 billion in the top 25. Just 42 billion in the top 25. How does that number swell? Well, how high does that number swell when we get to the top 100? I mean, you got to presume it's at least 100 billion. At least, right? I mean, people got I mean, there's trillions of money just sitting out there doing nothing. Look at money market funds. They've been seeing an increase in holdings or not standing balances across the board because people don't want to keep money in banks anymore. So they're going to where they can get these money market deposits, earn a little yield, and keep it in a relatively what they think is a safe place. But again, it's critical to understand. It's critical to understand the position of the players on the field. So while in finance everybody's trying to profit, they're all trying to profit in a different way. VCs try to get in early and make 100,000x, right? Like that's their whole game. That's what covers all those little losers. That's important to understand. This is, if you look at the Coinbase situation, Coinbase was a supposedly 15%, 15-cent average per share, supposedly. I'm pretty sure it was lower than that. Um, and when it IPO'd, it was greater than 350 bucks. Do the math on that. That's a whole lot of X's, right? Now, all the VCs that invested in that and cashed out at 380 or above, that's 2000x plus easy. Just on one allocation. So, do those other 100 allocations matter? No. We're talking about 2,000 versus 100 misses. It's irrelevant, right? Once you start figuring out how it happens, yeah. Now, this is exactly how I've thought of it. Now, the problem with that is that you got to understand what you're investing in, right? This is why education is the key. Education is what differentiates those that buy Doge and those that buy Hex. Straight up. Because Doge needs life support in order for it to even matter. Not the case for Hex. So, important things to understand, folks, because they matter. They matter. Now, the hedge funds are coming in to buy the stuff at the start. They're coming in to buy the Google when the IPOs and hold it for as long as they can. You got your long-term investors; they're all doing the same thing, just buying and holding. And these are all buy side elements, right? Buy side elements. And then after that, you're gonna have those players from the sell side that are stepping in to create inventory, right? And they're gonna create inventory from when they acquire it through through their IPO, ICO dealings, or whatever middleman crap they can finagle out of dealing with what you see on the screen, ultimately. Because that's ultimately what's about to go down. All these players live in the same bed together. They're not tied together at the hip. All of them are tied together. And that's how it works. Um, it's just funny because this is not supposed to be this. I sit here, look at this list, and just think to myself, like, this was not what was supposed to happen, 10 years ago. Nobody was thinking this was coming. It was a difference between people using what existed because it made sense to use and a whole industry coming to get involved, which is what we're now seeing. Now, Wall Street is trying to become crypto, right? Wall Street, Wall Street, uh, Wall Street, and I'm sure Wall Street. So that's at least seven out of the 25 of Wall Street, and I'm sure at least another seven. I just don't know that they're tied or backed by some Wall Street shit. 100% sure of it, because that's just how it works. Nothing is a coincidence, especially not in this business. Never. That's not how it goes down. So these are VC firms, and you got the hedge funds, and you got the buy side, right? So the buy side, or not the buy side, the sell side, which are the banks and stuff, the people that are going to try to make markets. So again, they're going to try to get their supply, their inventory from doing any dealings that they can with these entities, anything they can squeeze out from IPO, ICO scenarios, just anything they can squeeze out in general. And then that's how they're going to go about making markets to start, right? And this is all assuming that it's structured the same way, right? We really don't know what it's going to be structured like. We really can't say. I don't know. I can presume, take a wild guess, what I think is going to look like, but ultimately it'll just be a guess. I really won't know because let me tell you what. I did not think coin ranking sites were going to matter like they do, but because they lie to people so hard, guess what? They matter. Only in that so far as those that don't know go there because they don't know, and that's ultimately what it boils down to. When you don't know, they set you up for the kill and you get got. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today, guys. Any questions, anything like that, you guys let me know. Yeah, it's definitely low. It's way more than that. And that's why I'm just saying, this is just supposedly the top 25, right? We know there's trillions of dollars sitting on a sideline, just not doing anything. Just not looking, just not doing anything. Um, and that's important to understand. Everybody's out here just trying to find ways to scam you and not, get caught doing it or get reprimanded by the law or whatever the case is. Um, yeah, I mean, and it don't even got to be no hexagon supply chains. It just needs to be something apart from the system, something that's reliable and not dependent on these middlemen that are just there to gouge your eyes out. It's really easy, man. It's not even hard. But for society, everything revolves around money. So it becomes difficult because everybody wants a tit for tat instead of just doing what they're supposed to do or want to do ultimately. Because some people like doing that type of shit. Everybody likes doing something. It's just a matter of finding it and putting them to work. Like the way I see society is just very unique from where most people do. I don't even think we need money. It just doesn't make sense. Think about it. Everything already exists. What is the purpose of money? Money exists because people got to do stuff they don't want to do. So in order to get them to do it, you create this little marshmallow called money. Instead of just creating a society where people are doing what they need, what they want to do. Shouldn't be that hard. But here we are. And that in short is shout out again to everybody in the chat. Uh, appreciate you guys for coming on. Yeah. Please open your eyes, especially during these times, because it's only gonna get realer moving on out. I mean, it's kind of how I talked about yesterday. They're not even hiding anymore. They're just out here in your face. Oh wow! Breaking news: Fed admits to failings in Silicon Valley Bank oversight. So the stream just got a little bit longer. And give me a second. Let me see if this comes up. Okay. Now I don't know if you guys remember, but I've talked about this before. How they're gonna admit their weaknesses and whatnot. Even though for our entire life, they've never ever admitted to anything being wrong until recently. I mean, think about that. I mean, we see it every day when these people go on these what they call these presidential briefings. All they do is lie about how they're never wrong, all they do is right. And yet they're randomly choosing to feign ignorance and negligence in certain instances, especially only the instances that reference economic misgivings, which is what's most interesting. Because what's going to happen, and I'm telling you because I already know, what's going to happen is that they're going to say, oh, because the economy isn't working based on our models and all this bullshit that we like to make up, we're going to need to change it to this. And this is going to be CBDCs. That's what's going to come. Because that's how they work. Simply put, it's not rocket science. You can look back to the tape. I'm not some genius. It's just how the shit works. Check the tape. They've done it and they do it over and over and over again. You pick the arena. I mean, fuck, we just lived through it before with the Rona nonsense. I mean, hell, they out here trying to lie like they never said nothing now. Straight up. Ah, too funny, too funny, too funny. Um, not really sure what the question is here. We're still raising assets, so it's coming along, bro. But yeah, this is important to understand because that's what's gonna happen. They're out here destroying the economy, and they're gonna feign to be the ones that can fix it. Ask your friends and relatives how the hell that makes any sense. Because they're gonna just parrot narratives. They're not gonna be thinking about the dumb crap that you're gonna hear come out of their mouths. Because that is how society is structured. And again, until we decide for things to be different, they're not gonna be. And it can't just be me. Yeah. It's gotta be everybody that wants it to be that way to say it. My whole life I've heard, man, you're always saying this shit everybody wants to say but won't. Yeah, don't. Fucking say it. Because at the end of the day, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're not speaking your truth, who's gonna give a fuck about what your truth is? Nobody. So don't try to be flamboyant about it. Just be logical about it. We're all adults, especially after the past 3 years. People that don't grasp their autonomy, they gotta earn their respect. They don't just get it given. They lost it. Especially if they're wearing a face diaper. Jesus. All right. Thanks for the super chat, bro. The Fed is the Bob Ross of correcting mistakes. Ah, these errors are birds now. Everything is fine. Yeah. Robbing people blind and the people are happy about it. That's right. Yeah. Throw a little party when you got a lot of fiat notes in your account thinking you did something. You didn't. Peace. right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. That's it. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. Shit, motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Like yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. I mean, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all